I did not choose this disability. I did not choose losing half of my family. The only thing I get to choose is what I do with it. And this is where I have the choice.
Welcome to What Came After. I'm your host, Manya Marcus. On What Came After, we'll take a look at the many ways people's lives have changed since the brutal massacre in Israel on October 7th, 2023. We'll be speaking to people around the world to learn how this profound moment in Jewish and global history continues to shift, shape, and change them. To learn more, please visit us at whatcameafter.com. Hi, this is Manya Marcus, and I'm recording this on the evening of March 21st, 2026. Just a few days ago, I received an email from the Israel Parasport Center. It was sent by the center's executive director, Boaz Kramer, and read as follows. Today, we lost two members of our community. Yaron Moshe and his wife Alana were killed by a direct missile strike on their home in Ramat Gan. Yaron used a walker for mobility, and it appears they were unable to reach their safe room in time. Perhaps they tried and couldn't make it, or perhaps, like many people with limited mobility, they faced the impossible reality of being asked to get out of bed and run for shelter in the middle of the night. Yaron was in his early 70s and had been a member of the center for nearly 15 years. He took part in many of our programs, and Alana was always by his side. Only the other day, one of our coaches met them at the gym and asked how they were coping. Alana told them, "We can't make it to the safe room. We are in the hands of God." And in God's hands, they are. In many ways, they represent a part of our community that is less seen. They were not the wheelchair tennis champions or the basketball stars, not the exceptional talents or the inspirational speakers we so often highlight. They were something else and far more common. A couple in their 70s, one living with a progressive disability. People who came to the center to move a little, to swim a little, to share a cup of coffee, and most of all, simply not to be alone. This is the quiet majority. Their deaths are tragic, but they also force us to confront a reality that is often overlooked. Disability is not only about access, opportunity, or independence. It is not only about stairs or jobs or inclusion. Sometimes it is about something much more basic, the ability to protect yourself and the people you love. Yehi Zichron Baruch, Boaz. In just a few moments, you'll be hearing from Asael Shabo, a professional wheelchair basketball player and Paralympic athlete who lost his leg in a terror attack when he was 9 years old. Asael shares how the Israel Parasport Center was critical to his process of recovery and growth. I know many of you will hear this and wonder how you can help. Please feel free to go to israelparasportcenter.org to learn more about their programs and to donate if you're able. I hope you enjoy this episode. It is February 8th, 2026, and I am so honored to be seated here with Asael Shabo. Asael, you are far from home. I would love it if you would introduce yourself and explain to us why you are all the way here in not-so-beautiful Skokie.
So I'm part of the Israel Parasport Center, and that's basically a place that offers a variety of almost 20 different kind of sports, Paralympic sports, that I started there as a kid. I came there when I was 9. And I grew up there in the system, and I acquired so many tools that gave me so much from my personal life that now I'm a bigger part of this center. And one of the jobs I do there is going to the US and making sure this place has a future, because 60% of our budget come from the US as donations. We're a nonprofit organization. So I'm coming here to make sure that the opportunity that I got, the next generation will have, if not the same, but better opportunity.
So let's travel back for just a second. When you talk about the difference between referring to where you grew up, tell me, for people who don't understand, how the names that we use for this location, what the meaning is of choosing one name versus the other.
I think it says a lot politically. When you say the West Bank, it's my own perspective, but it means to me, politically, you think it's not part of Israel. And when you say Judea and Samaria, that means that a part of our history of Yehuda. That means that you acknowledge that this is, in my opinion, the most important part of Israel beside Jerusalem.
So you grew up in this area, and I think that means probably that your family felt strongly that Judea and Samaria are part of Israel, historically and religiously and for the future. Tell us about your family. Tell us about growing up there, and give us a picture of what your very early life was like.
So when you grow up in the Shomron, it's a very peaceful place. It might shock some people to hear that.
Yes, what we get on the news would not suggest that it's very peaceful.
Yeah, but when you grow up there and you know the place like your hand, it's an amazing place. It's peaceful, it's quiet. You hear the birds. There is a lot of space for everyone. But I grew up in a family with 7. The town's maybe 100 families, very small. So you know everyone. And the doctor comes like twice a week. So it's a very small suburb town that has a big community and a very big heart in there. So I really enjoyed growing up there. And even though there is a lot of conflict there and terror attacks, which I experienced firsthand, it's still a place where there is no other place for me. I work in the sports center, so it's in Ramat Gan, which is very central next to Tel Aviv. I'm there every day. So my life is around there. So I live in Tel Aviv, which is near. Otherwise, if my life and my career was in Shomron, I would stay there.
So I think that's really interesting once people find out what happened to you. We'll get into probably one of the darkest days of your life in a moment, but to contrast the fact that you were a victim of a terror attack in this place against you saying it was so incredibly peaceful, it's a little hard for me to understand how you could continue to find it so peaceful when what happened happened. So if you're comfortable, why don't you share with us what happened when you were 9 years old?
Of course, I can first say I can really understand that conflict in the head, and that's exactly why I say that it's such a peaceful place, because I want people to understand, yes, there is terror attacks and there is the risk, and there is higher risk than living in Tel Aviv. Agreed. But when you calculate or you look at like pros and cons, there's so many pros living there beside the fact and the feeling that you are part of the whole country in Israel, and basically the first line preventing October 7 from the West Bank in this case. And my personal story is that when I was 9 at 2002, close to the end of the second Intifada, a terrorist broke into Itamar and got to the first street. We were the 4th house in that street. So he tried to break into one of the houses. First 3 houses, the doors were locked. So he got to our house and the door was always open. As I said, it was very peaceful, so we didn't mind. Everybody's always welcome. So he just came in, and there was the first ground. It was like a big house, so we had like 3 to 4 floors. First ground, there was no one there. And then first floor, the first room. So you climb up the stairs and you go turn to the left. That's the first bedroom. I was there with 3 of my siblings watching TV, and my sister was with my mom on the top floor. And I had 2 other siblings that were not at the house. They were outside with friends. And my dad was working a lot. So he was on his way back from work. It was like 9 p.m. And we didn't hear the terrorist. He just stood in front of the door with his AK gun and just started shooting and killed my 3 siblings that were with me at the same room. He killed them right away, like on the spot. And I was on the ground because my 2 big siblings were behind me on the bed, watching the TV, facing the TV. I was on the ground, and my little brother, Avishai, was between me and the door on this little bean bag that we had. So my 3 siblings died at that spot, and I pretended to be dead. And I believe that's what eventually saved my life. Because I remember that the terrorist also moved my hand, and I didn't react. And after he's shooting on us, my mom was just going down the stairs. So he shot her at the stairs and killed her as well. And my sister heard all the shooting, so she hid under the bed. And when the terrorist came to the top floor, he didn't see her. So he locked himself in the bathroom, called the guy who sent him, and spoke some Arabic. At that time, the army was already there. They came and broke into the house right away. Every town in the West Bank or in Shomron and Yehuda has army base right next to it. So they are very quick to arrive. So they arrived, they broke in, they started shooting, exchanging fire with the terrorist. And while they are exchanging fire, they started taking us out of the room, going up to the top floor and rescuing my sister as well. She got injured in the process of rescuing her. The soldier who grabbed her under the bed lost his finger and she got a bullet in her belly, which by a miracle didn't hurt any internal organs. And they took her to the hospital and she was there for a couple of months. And the whole attack was around 2 hours, roundabout.
2 hours.
2 hours. And until the house started getting on fire, we had a lot of like wooden items. In Israel, you have those balloons that gives you gas to use your stove. So those, they're always right next to the house. So they were also part of the explosion that started the fire in the house with all the grenades that were exchanged, mostly from the terrorist side. He came in with, I believe, something like 5 grenades, 12 magazines. He used 10 of the 12 magazines in those 2 hours.
This is one person.
This is one person. Yeah. And he was shooting so much that at the beginning they thought it's 2 terrorists because he was standing in a position in the house in the middle that he had a window to each direction. So anyone who gets near the house, he shoots him. And my neighbor, may his memory be a blessing, Yosef Twito, he was the first one that heard the shooting, grabbed his gun without thinking, ran towards our house. And before he even made it to the house, the terrorists saw him and shot him from the window.
One of the strangest and most difficult things about October 7th, I think, is that we have gotten used to hearing stories like this kind of unbelievable, sadistic violence, right? And I think it's possible that some people are becoming numb to hearing stories like this because now there are just so many. I'm wondering for you, this particular story leads to really directly to how you became involved in the Parasport Center. And so you share it a lot. And I'm wondering if you feel it when you talk about it, or if it feels distant from you, like you're talking about a movie. Like, do you still feel it when you speak about it?
I think it's a great question, first of all. And I can relate to what you're saying, that people become a little bit numb. Unfortunately, that's our sad reality, that especially after October 7th, which is quite weird to me in a way, because my story and the second Intifada is a different kind of October 7th. So things haven't changed in 20 something years, unfortunately. And I want to hope that it will change in the future. But for me personally, I've been talking about my story since I remember myself, since everything happened. And I've been doing motivational speaking lectures, mostly in Israel, in schools, in organizations, in companies, because I think my story is very important for people to hear, that you can go through something challenging, you can go through something really hard in your life. It does not mean that everything is done. It does not mean that your life is over. So I don't feel like I'm sharing something from a movie. I feel like I'm very connected to my emotions. So there is emotions while I talk about it, but because I've been sharing it for so long and so many times, because I know the importance of it, it comes a little bit more natural in a way. But it's definitely something that usually after I talk about my story, when I'm done and then the thoughts come in and the memories come in, then it's a little bit more difficult. But while I'm talking, I'm really cherishing it, because it's really important for me that people hear that story.
So one thing that I want people to know is that as a result of this attack, you were 9 years old. You lost most of your family in a matter of, sounds like, moments, hours, I'm not sure. And you also lost your leg.
Correct.
At what point did you realize, sort of physically in the attack, because I'm sure there's a lot of adrenaline, right, protecting you from pain. At what point did you realize that something was happening with your leg physically?
Out of those 2 hours that the attack, I was around 40 minutes in the house, and 2 grenades exploded next to me, like right next to me. And I think what saved my life is also the fact that when the grenade exploded, it explodes towards the ceiling. So if it's on the ground, most of the pieces will go up. So I was very close to it. So I did absorb a lot of pieces, but I still think that a lot of them like kind of passed above me. At the hospital, they took out of my body around 200 pieces. I still have around 10 pieces of metal from the grenades in my body. And the leg, I got 3 bullets in the knee. And there was nothing to save when I was in the hospital, not the knee. So they had to cut above the knee. When I was laying on the ground in the house, I didn't feel any pain. The only pain I remember was in my back, because I feel like from what I've learned a little bit is that when the whole system has been hurt in the body starts to protect what is important. And the nerve system that is in the spine, this is where I felt the pain. So it's a really painful part in the back, but I did not feel anything else, not in my hands, not in my legs, nothing. I do remember when, after the soldiers took me out of the house, because I bled a lot, I lost around 4 liters of blood
As a 9-year-old.
as a
That's
9-year-old.
yeah.
So it's more than half the amount of blood in your body. So the soldiers thought I'm dead. So they put me on the ground outside of the house together with the rest of the bodies. And then I felt a little wind on my face. So I opened my eyes and I see the sky. So in my kind of my last breath, I screamed that I'm alive and I need help. And then they realized I'm alive and they took me in a helicopter, in a chopper, to the hospital. So I remember at the chopper, they gave me oxygen and everything. So I think the body started to spread the pain a little bit, and I felt big pain above the knee. So I remember I like put my hand, and I remember there was a little gap in the leg. I don't want to share too many details with the people who hears it, but I do remember that I felt something is off in the leg, and I only found out afterwards when I woke up at the hospital.
You're now a professional athlete, is that correct?
Correct.
I want you to tell us about that, but first I want to say something, which is that I think it's important to talk about the process, everything that happens between waking up in the hospital after a terror attack and becoming this sort of emblem of resilience. Because I think sometimes people feel that there's pressure to go from tragedy to resilience, and they forget how much work and how hard it is and how it takes time to go from one to the other. I think about like Rocky, the movie, and there's this sort of like 30-second montage and he's running and suddenly, he's ready to roll. It doesn't go like that. Okay.
I wish.
So do I. So maybe if you could share with us just some of the hardships of the journey between this happening to you at really such a young age and then becoming this. I mean, you're a Paralympian, you're an Olympian. That's a big deal.
It is like a big change from a child who grew up in a very small town that has never done sport in my life, nothing professionally. As kids, we played soccer mostly. But after the injury, part of the rehabilitation is to do sport. And I've been offered to come to the Israel Para Sports Center and to try one of the sports activities we have. And I wanted to go to the pool. And it's very recommended to people who has a sudden injury.
The pool, the water.
The water. It's very important, and it's helping the body. It's only 5% of your body weight, and so it's very good for any kind of injury. It's highly recommended. It was not recommended to me in the beginning because of the injuries and the grenades and everything. But when I started swimming, there was, for me, the first place where I was alone. Because as a small kid who lost half of his family at the hospital, I was always surrounded by people. If it's volunteers, if it's visitors, if it's family, if it's doctors, if it's nurses, whatever. There was not even 1 second that I was alone. And I think after something so traumatic, you need a second for yourself to realize. This is something I learned afterwards, or it gave me the perspective of being a Jew. When someone dies in your family, you mourn for 7 days. You sit on the ground, you sit in a lower place, you rip your shirt off, and you mourn. And now I understand why. I think it's very important for the process of...
Like the wisdom of the ritual of Shiva, right?
Yes. It's very important for the future, because when you absorb it, when you sit and you realize what is happening, and you absorb the pain and you feel the pain, only after you do that, you can go and start building on it. So my family had no time to mourn. I had no time to mourn. I was in the hospital. My dad had no time to mourn. My sister was in one hospital. I was in a different hospital. 2 other siblings staying at uncle's house because the house burned down. So you always had to run. And I think I started going to therapy, I think a year after, mental therapy with a psychologist. And I was with him for like 8 years. And I feel like this is a big part of accepting what you've been through and building on it, because I know today that if you don't accept it, you will never recover. And it's not about kind of swiping it under the rug, or it's not like I ignore what I've been through. It's learning how to live with it and parallel to it. I'll give you an example from today. I'm using a prosthetic leg, and you can do covers on the prosthetic leg. So you can have veins, you can have hairs, you can have scars, you can have tattoos, you can have whatever you want that no one will notice it's a prosthetic leg. I have nothing. I have just a medal. I don't want any cover. And when they ask me why, I said, this is exactly why, because I'm not trying to hide who I am. I'm going with pride with who I am. And in Israel, here is snowy and cold, but in Israel, when it's nice and warm, you will mostly see me wearing shorts, because this is exactly it. I want people to know that this is where I'm coming from, but it does not change who I am today. It changed everything in my life, but I'm coming from there and made me stronger eventually.
I want to get to your sport. You That's a huge part of the story. I do want to ask you, because there's been this huge effort from the diaspora to go to Israel and try to support and try to volunteer. And there's a lot of interest in being in hospitals and visiting soldiers who are rehabilitating. From your experience being, surrounded and
Mhm.
then needing quiet, I mean, I think being surrounded is very important at the beginning, but what would you say to people who want to go and sit with individuals who've been through something similar?
I myself went to visit soldiers at the hospital, and I'll give you one example from the Parasport or the Paralympic Committee. After October 7, we wanted to go to the hospitals with our equipment. So with a wheelchair basketball chair and other kind of sports or tennis or something, just to offer and show them what they can do after and kind of introduce the Paralympic world. And we had a Zoom meeting regarding this topic, and everybody said something from their experience. The psychologists and the trainers, the coaches, everybody had their own experience about it. And then I said one thing. I said, I just want to remind all of you one thing. There are still 18, 19, 20 young kids who just their life turned upside down. Not necessarily they lost someone, they just maybe lost a hand or a leg or whatever, but they still struggling right now. It's very fresh. So sometimes is the best, in my opinion, is to be there, but kind of not to be there. So I give the support, but I wanted them to come to me. So I'll give you an example. So I was not in Israel on October 7th, and I came to Israel around a month after, somewhere in November. And the first thing I did when I landed was go to the hospital right away. My neighbor lost his leg, and
In combat.
yeah, he got a anti-tank direct on him, so he lost his leg. And he's my neighbor from where we lived after the attack in the West Bank in Shomron. And I grew up with his sister, so she called me and she says, my young brother lost his leg and I would love for you to meet him. And so I landed, I came to the hospital right away, and I went to his room and I talked to him, and he was very happy to see me, and we were still in great contact. Like, I support him as much as I can, even though I have to say this generation, they are so strong. It's amazing to see. But after I finished with him, I wanted to visit more people, but the hospitals were packed with people. People came with gifts and new laptops,
Yeah.
and it was
Lego. They came
it
with
was a
Lego.
crazy carnival. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
On one hand, it's amazing to see how much the people support each other. It
Mhm.
was really amazing to see. On the other hand, it's like, wait 1 second, give them a second to realize what they've been through. So I just walked around. I did not go to any room. And if someone wanted to ask me, because I was wearing short, if someone wanted to ask me, like, who I am and like, what am I doing here, then I would introduce myself. But I wanted them to come to me in a way. I wanted whoever is ready to talk, whoever is ready to hear one more story, whoever has patience. I remember in the hospital, I was like, at some point, leave me alone. I need to be alone. And especially after October 7th, it was so crazy. I could see them, they're so exhausted. So I would say time. Time is the biggest matter in here. Also for your own personal recovery, but also if you want to support people, give them time.
It's interesting. You say that you were wearing shorts at the hospital. Simply by showing that you have a prosthetic, you're kind of identifying yourself as part of a certain tribe and inviting in community. I just think that's a very interesting thing that you can do. You can sort of show part of yourself, and then it becomes very clear to people, that they might have something in common with you. What I want to ask now is your life and your body changed when you were so young. Do you ever think that it might be easier to have your body change when you're younger than when you're older? Because most of your lived experience now is in your current form.
As disabled, yeah, that's very true. I do think that having such a traumatic thing is easier when you're young. You have less memories, you understand less. I have total blackout from anything before 9 years old, and like very rare moments. My mom's cooking, making challah was the first thing, my favorite thing of her, and very small occasions that happened with my dad and siblings, but very rare. And all the memories, like the photos, everything burned down in the fire. So the memories are mostly in your head. So you also don't want to forget. But if we look at the medical part, for example, a phantom pain, which is a horrible pain that you feel the limb that you don't have anymore, it can be really painful. So when you're younger and the brain still develops, at some point it changes and it reduces. So I have some phantom, but it's not as vivid as it was, or I see it on soldiers who's 19, 20, and the brain still develops, but it differently. So they can even have phantom for the rest of their life, and it's very difficult thing to deal with. So on the medical part, I agree totally that it's easier, I would say, to go through that when you're younger. Also for the mental part, you remember less. As you say, you grew up with that. Like, I don't remember much from before walking on two legs. Today I'm walking on two legs with a prosthetic. So you limp a little bit. And I think one of the reasons that I like to wear shorts is that because I'm not working 100% straight, at least people know why and don't just think I'm a weirdo who's limping.
But okay, so let's talk about your athletic career. The thing that's just very interesting to me is as an athlete, you've only known yourself as a para athlete. Is that correct? And I think for a lot of people, maybe who are coming to the Para Sports Center now, they know their body in motion in a different way. This is all you've been, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about your journey, how you chose your sport, what your sport is. Let's get into that part of it.
All right, for sure. So when I was in the hospital, as I mentioned, I was always around people. So when I first came to the Israel Para Sports Center, that was the first place where, first of all, I didn't feel different. When you're a small kid on the wheelchair, everybody's looking at you in the grocery store, in the mall. And when I came to the Israel Paralympic Sports Center, I felt equal. Everybody there has a disability. So you're one more of many that has a certain physical disability.
Were you the only kid, or were there other kids there also?
We have a lot of kids in the sports center. And I chose to go to the pool. I wanted to be alone. That was first place I was alone. And, I could understand what I've been through. So I chose to stay in the pool. And I was a swimmer for 8 years. When I finished the process at the hospital, I started swimming more professionally in the kids competition. And then until the age of around 17, 18, I decided I want something else. But I swam professionally in the national team in competitions outside of Israel, broke few records in Israel. One of them is 50 meters freestyle, which was a big honor to win. But it's been so many years, and I've been playing wheelchair basketball for the last 15 years. I needed a change. I always say swimming was great for the beginning. It was exactly what I needed. I needed that place for myself. When everything you do is on you, succeed or lose, it's on you. It's how much effort you did.
There's no team component.
No.
Right.
It's about you. It's how much effort you made. This is how much result you'll get. But what I was missing, especially because as a disabled kid, you're not as accepted in the regular school. You might be accepted in class, but when kids go outside to play, you will not be invited. And even if you're invited, you always feel like they're doing you a favor. When you choose two teams to play soccer, so you already know in the first place that you will be the last one to be chosen, and it's not even chosen, it's just the one that is left and somebody has to play with. So that's a hard feeling. And that's the place that when I graduated high school, I was in yeshiva. I told myself I want more social life. I want to go on dates. I want to have more friends. And all my friends from the yeshiva served the army, and I couldn't as disabled, or I could volunteer, but I decided to do something else instead. So I wanted social, and I felt like I needed a change in my life. So I started trying wheelchair basketball. And since then, it's been 15 years, been playing in the national team. I played 6 years in Germany as a professional wheelchair basketball player. And I came back to Israel, and I came back to the Israel Power Sports Center 2 months ago. I mean, I was always there, but during the German league season, which is October to May, I was in Germany most of the time. After October 7, I already knew it's my time to go back. I did not feel the same anymore in Europe. Did not feel the same as Jew anymore. I felt detached. You go to the grocery store and people are happy while my friends are dying. And it was a big contrast that I was struggling to deal with. So I'm very glad to be back. I'm very glad to be back in Israel full time. And it's the only place for me.
Let me ask you this. I don't know how soon after your injury you began to walk, right? To use your prosthetic to walk. But was it a new thing to be in a wheelchair to play basketball? Or because you're not in a wheelchair now. So was that a new thing that you needed to learn, or was that something you were used to already?
I've used a wheelchair when I was in the hospital, and I was quite good at it, maneuvering it, even like jumping down on stairs. We did a competition in the hospital with one of friends. Like, he goes down in the elevator with the wheelchair, and I goes down in the stairs, and we see who gets to the lower floor first. So people chase you in the stairs because you think you're falling with your chair. And I was like, no, I'm good. And you're like, hop, hop.
That
you
sounds
know?
like a great way to get another injury, but I'm not a
Yeah.
doctor.
I mean, I'm already in the hospital, right?
I guess that's true. It's a great place to
I'm
be.
very close to the doctor. If you want to get injured, do it in the
You in
hospital.
the hospital.
So I had some wheelchair skills, but it's not about the skills. I think it's more about the fact of doing sport on a chair. So because I'm not using a wheelchair today, I'm using a prosthetic or crutches sometimes. I started walking with a prosthetic when I was around 16. So I was 7 years on a wheelchair / crutches. But since I've been using a prosthetic, it changed my life. I got older. I wanted to have free hands because when you're with crutches, you can't really do anything. And on a wheelchair is also can be very limiting sometimes. So when I started working with the prosthetic, it gives you that freedom. You walk. It's different. Yeah, it's not as easy, agreed, but it gave me the freedom that I wanted. Walk with your partner and hold hands or hug a friend. But when I wanted a change in the sport, the reason I didn't try any wheelchair sport before that is because there is some kind of unwritten feeling that if you don't use a wheelchair, you will not do sport on a wheelchair. Like, it's kind of putting yourself in a lower hierarchy of disability in a way.
To be in the chair?
Yeah. Like, I don't need a chair. Why would I use a chair? Why would I make myself more disabled? Why would I put myself in a more difficult position? I hope I'm not hurting anyone's feeling when I say that, but it was very hard. And I'm not the only one that I've heard that had this feeling. I hear from a lot of people that has some kind of amputation or some kind of disability that they're not using a chair. They were like, I will not sit in a chair. So I had the same thought until I met a coach of the wheelchair basketball team in the Para Sports Center. His name is Leo, and he's an amputee, even lighter than me, I would say, below the knee. So if you have your knee, it's a whole different disability. It's still an amputation. And people might look at it as similar, but it's a whole different life if you have the knee or not. Anyway, so I see him at the gym at the fitness center, and I just finished swimming, and we talked a little bit, and he said, well, I'm one of the coaches here in the center. Why don't you come and try wheelchair basketball? And I told him I will think about it because I've been offered a couple of times and I did not want to be on a chair. And he said, well, look at me. I'm also playing on a chair. And I agreed. And I came there and I tried training for the first time. And I remember being really good in the kids training. And I tried it and I liked it so much. And I liked that. I feel like my strong side or the things that I have that I know I can give to other people came out. Like I can give to people, I can guide people, I can create, or it happened naturally that I create this personal connection with each person. It's important for me to have this personal connection. It's important for me that people like me. It's important for me that I want everybody to get along. And if we go a little bit bigger than that, I want the whole world to get along.
Amen. Look, I have to tell you, as somebody who's never played sports in my life, when I see wheelchair basketball, it looks harder to physically perform than upright basketball. Do you agree with that? Or
I 100% agree. I do think that is a very challenging. You can't use your legs. So everything you do in standing basketball, you run with your legs, you jump with your legs, then you shoot with your hands, you dribble with your hands, you put an elbow with your hands. But we have to do all of it only with our hands. So you have to know how to control the chair, know how to control the ball, know how to decide where you go or react to the offender, and do all of it in a very high speed, in like a split of a second decisions, and do all of that with your hands. And then still go to the free throw line or shoot a 3-pointer when your arms are tired. So we have some disabled on court that has no abdominal muscles. So it's even more difficult for
Wow.
them. They have to use only shoulders and hands muscles. They don't have any back muscles, no belly muscles, no abdominal, nothing. So it's even more difficult for them. I compensate on things, or I have more mobility and control on the chair because I compensate with my core muscles. I can jump, I can fall, I can lift myself up, I can do all of it.
You can jump? What do you mean? Like inside the chair?
Yeah, you jump on one wheel, for example, if I want to gain a few inches and be a little bit taller in a jump ball, for example, or in a rebound, you jump on one wheel because you're tied to the chair, so the chair becomes part of you. So you can jump on one wheel, and that you can only do when you use your core and gain a few inches. And someone who has no abdominal muscles cannot do. So there's also advantages of disabilities in a way, but we have a system that makes it fair. So everybody has a point system by their disability that allows you eventually to create this fair play. So if, for example, on court for 5 players, you're allowed to have maximum of 14 points. And the point system is 1 to 4.5. So a 1-pointer will be someone who's paralyzed from the chest down. There's no abdominal muscles, has a belt on his belly to support him from falling forward, all the way up to 4.5. A 4.5 is someone who's an amputee, for example, below the knee, like my coach. I don't have a knee, so I'm a 4-pointer because I'm amputee higher. And the more severe your disability is, the less points you take out of the 14 points.
Interesting.
So you have to calculate. And the reason we have this rule is not to take 5 players with a minor disability, but actually to force teams, to force this sport to find and work hard for people with more severe disabilities. This is where they actually get to shine. Otherwise, they will not even do the sport. If they come to training and they're less mobile than the rest of the team, they will not even get playtime.
That's incredible.
And here, they're not even getting playtime. They are the most important players on court.
So the rules are complicated. I mean, for the viewer, you might not know exactly what's going into it, but there's a lot of intricate details here.
There is. And if you sub, you can't just sub one player on another. Unless you sub a 4.5 with a 4.5, that's totally fine. But if you take out a 4 and a 1, you take out 5 points, you have to bring back 5 points or up to 5 points.
Possibly across multiple players.
Yeah, so like 3 and 2 or stuff like that. So you have lineups more based on the amount of points than based on the skill in a way.
Are these the same wheelchairs that people would use? Are they particularly special wheelchairs, or are these like just the normal standard thing?
These are very special wheelchairs. Every sport has a way of building the chair for the need of the sport. So if it's a rugby sport, wheelchair rugby, they really have like an armor. Every chair weighs like 35, 40 pounds. Like it's massive. to absorb all the contact. We are a little bit more gentle in basketball. So our chairs are lighter. They're around 20 to 25 pounds. And they are very different. So I would say the first thing that you notice is that the wheels are in an angle and they're not straight. They're a little bit more wide. And there's few reasons for that. One reason is imagine you're standing and your feet are very close to each other. You are unbalanced, right? You can be pushed right away and you will be unbalanced. But if you spread your legs and you take more space, you're more stable. It's hard to move you. Same with the chair. The more space you take, the more stable you are. It also helps you for a quick maneuver to turn much quicker because if the wheels are straight, it takes a little bit more time. And the third reason is that if you imagine the wheels are in an angle, so when I go close to another chair, the contact between the wheels will be on the ground at the bottom of the wheel. And then if you hold the wheel, you hold it on the top part, then the hands are very far from each other. So you're basically preventing contact in the fingers, and that's also less injuries. 20, 30 years back, we played with straight wheels. We call it daily chair, like what everybody's using. We used the same, and there was a lot of finger injuries. So when we tilted the wheels a little bit, a lot have changed in the sport.
Let's talk for a minute about October 7th. You mentioned that you were in Germany. How long have you, now you're back in Israel, but how long were you in Germany?
Yeah, I was in Germany on October 7. I've been there for my last 4 years since 2020.
Which part of Germany were you in?
I was in Cologne, which
Cologne.
is very central.
Mm-hmm.
A very nice city. I really enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
being there.
I've been there. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I learned a lot from the German culture, and I'm trying to somehow blend it with the Israeli culture, which also has a lot of benefits. And I think the mix can be a really good country if we could mix the two.
You can lead the way.
I will gladly do that. So I was there, and October 7th was a Saturday. And that was actually the first game of the season, a home game. So I'm under a contract and I have to play. But I just woke up to the most terrible news, right? And everything is still happening. Like I talk to my friends. We have a tennis player, a wheelchair tennis player in the Israel Sports Center, that he lived in the Gaza envelope. So I was texting with him while he's still in the bunker with his family and everything is happening. And I'm on my way to my game. So I come to the court, was full on crying. Was not in a mental state for a game, and the coach saw that, so he let me play like 5 minutes, which I have to say, I was quite good for those 5 minutes. Like I could somehow still play, but what I do remember is there was a big dissonance in the feeling. You know, here they're happy they start the season. It's a home game. It's a big carnival. There was like 400, 500 spectators, and I'm like on my phone. I couldn't focus. It was a big challenge. It was very hard for me. I couldn't sleep in the first 3 nights. I just didn't sleep. I was on my phone. It was horrible. And I've seen, unfortunately, on my phone, almost every possible video that came out on that day.
You made that choice.
I made that choice.
Why?
I think part of that is because I wasn't there and I wanted to feel like I'm there. And I think the second reason is because I'm coming from terror, I'm coming from horror, I'm coming from this moment. I need to feel it. I need to see it. This was very hard for me that I wasn't there. And when I came, I went to see the Gaza envelope and the burned houses and the smell. When I talk to a lot of people, they all say the thing that they remember the most is the smell. That smell hit me 23 years back. I know that smell. It was stuck in my nose for years. It's horrible. It chases you. It haunts you.
And it's the one thing we can't get through social media. We don't understand the smell.
No. And you know what? I wish no one to know that smell. Whoever experienced it can understand. If you haven't experienced it, you should really say thank you. It's a horrible smell. It's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible memory. But you know what? I can tell you one thing that I've learned lately is knowing that we will always be hunted. I look at the history of the Jews. We were always hunted. We say, as a yeshiva student, we say, Esav soneh Yaakov, which means Esav is the brother of Jacob in the Bible. And they did not get along. And we say, Esav soneh Yaakov, that means from day one of Jacob and Esau in the Bible until today, we experience this hate. We experience this anti Semitism. We experience this haunted way the whole time. So I want to believe it will change. I believe it will change. But this is what we do. This is why we are such a strong nation right now, because we were haunted. We had to find other ways to do what is important for us. We had to find other way to grow. We have to hide our identity, but we're not hiding our ideas. And if you look at today, we gave so much to this world. We gave not only technology and medicine and everything you can think about that is existent in this world, we have some kind of part of it. It's about that we are still happy. You go to Israel, I think it's ranked the third happiest country in the Euro nation.
It might be a little lower than that, but I think that when you look at people between like 18 and 30, it's way up there. And people don't understand that because it's like, that's the population that's in the army. That's the population that confronts death. Why are they happy? So I'll ask you that question. Why are people who can confront death like this, how can they be happy? Are you happy? How can you be happy?
I'm very happy. I always try to be happy. Yeah, there is hard moments, but I think it puts you in perspective to enjoy more the other things. You realize what is important in life. You realize what matters. And you realize how to enjoy the little moment. You know it can change in any second. I'm enjoying now. I'm not scared of dying. If my time comes, my time comes. But until the day comes, I'm going to enjoy this life. I'm going to look back in my life and say, I maximized it. I gave my best. And when you give your best, you also eventually get the best. You enjoy the best. You enjoy the most. And it puts you in perspective of what matters. If you want to be in a position or have a certain job, you will do it. And if you don't make it, that's also fine. So I would say that's, I think, the main reason why those soldiers, because they are coming from there, they lost friends, they are happy for them. They celebrate for them. I remember in many parts of my life, I told myself, if I'm the only one who survived that room and my three siblings died there, there's got to be a reason I'm here. And that reason is, I don't know the reason. I do know what is not the reason. And the reason is to stay in the room and do nothing. It's been 23 years. If I would have just give up and stayed in my room, then why did I survive?
It's very clear to me that you've thought about this for a long time. You've had to think about it and you've faced it and you've processed it and you've turned this kind of collapse into something really strong and beautiful in your career. But my question is, how has any of that changed for you since October 7th?
What changed for me mostly is I feel more proud being a Jew. When I lived in Germany before October 7, I was always hesitating saying where I'm from, for example. And since October 7, I've been proudly saying I'm from Israel every time I get asked. Doesn't matter if it's in Europe, if it's here in America, I say where I'm from. And I do it because I'm not going to hide my identity anymore. I'm not scared of anything anymore. The opposite. I feel like, yeah, it's time for the Jews to stand up. It's time for the Jews to be proud of who we are. And yeah, it's risky. It's dangerous. But I come from danger. I come from risky. This is not going to stop me.
So that's very interesting what you say about not leading with information that you're Jewish when you initially were in Germany. I lived in Germany briefly after college, and I loved telling people I was Jewish. I felt like they liked that. And now I would be scared to say it. Why were you not sharing as much your identity before October 7th?
I know what you mean about your perspective, because it's exactly the opposite. People after October 7 are more hesitating to say they're Jews or Israelis. I went exactly the opposite. And I think it's because when I was there, I didn't care as much if people like us or not. I love my country. I love being a Jew. I want people to know. Last night, I was standing outside of the hotel when it was snowing because I love the snow and it was so unique. I went outside to see it. And I started to talk to two people. And we talked about my prosthetic leg and about Israel. I said I'm from Israel. I'm a terror victim survivor. And the guy came very close to me. And he's a big guy. He's like 6'3".
Wait, just a random person
Just
outside the hotel?
another guest in the hotel, and he comes very close with his wife or whatever. They were like talking. We were talking, the three of us, and he comes very close and he says, "As a Christian, I thank you for who you are. And
Oh,
I
wow.
thank you for what you did."
Wow.
And this is what I take from my visit in the US. I've talked to someone random. He said to me, "I've never met an Israeli, or I've never met like a terror victim before, or someone who comes from this war of Israel. And I highly respect it." And he was really cherishing it. And for me, this is more important to me, that I might even affected one person knowing we are good people. We are happy people, and we will give you the same. And it affects his small environment that he has in somewhere in America. And I just feel like I want more people to like us.
Somewhere out there, someone is listening to this show and they're thinking, I have PTSD. I've had a hard time getting out of bed or leaving my house. And I listen to Asael and I think he's amazing. And I don't know if I can do that. What do you say to that person?
I can understand, first of all. This is what I will say. If someone listens and has PTSD, I understand. I know how hard is it. It's hard. It's hard. First thing you have to do is admitting the challenge, admitting the pain. If you don't admit it and you don't acknowledge the source, you will never get past it. And if I put it in as an athlete perspective, if I have pain in my shoulder, but the source is the neck, doesn't matter how much I will work on the shoulder, I will not solve the source, the problem. And sometimes the problem comes somewhere else. So we have this post-trauma, and I don't sleep. I personally don't sleep well. Sleeping is overrated in my opinion. And
You're saying you haven't slept well since the attack, since you were 9 years old.
it comes and goes. Since October 7, my sleeping has decreased a lot, but it's okay. I'm happy with it. I have more time during the day to do things I like. It's a matter of perspective.
Okay.
I get up on the left foot anyway, so it doesn't matter which time, and half foot in the grave. So there's a lot of dark humor that helps. So speaking of post-trauma, acknowledging it, accepting it, and giving it time. And doing sport. I was a kid. I went to the Israel Sports Center, Para Sports Center, and it's a place that gave me hope. I want those people to find what gives them hope. It can be art. It can be going to the ocean and listening to the waves. There's ways of dealing with it. To me, I think it's part of my personality. I'm very persistent. I don't like to lose. And when I stay home and I give up, I feel like I'm losing. And I look at the surrounding, everybody continues with their life. They keep growing and I'm staying. The gap is increasing. I was 2 years in the hospital. The gap was already there. The more time I spend at home, the bigger the gap will be. I'm trying to close this gap. So I actually need to be in a higher speed, believing in yourself, believing that you can get up, and believing that it's hard, but you're still here. When you pray in the morning in the Siddur, the Bible praying book, you say every morning, Modeh ani, thank God I'm here. Thank God I woke up this morning. Regardless what's coming from now until the end of the day, it might come struggle, might come something amazing as well. But first thing is saying, thank God I'm here. And every morning, and I don't pray. I'm not a religious person, I'm more a traditional person. But I do say every morning, thank God I'm here.
It feels difficult to say, thank God I'm here, when the people you loved the most can't say that.
And it's very hard knowing I'm here and my family isn't. Why does a 5-year-old lovely kid has to die? I know, it's hard. And I always say one thing about it. I say, if you don't have the possibility to change it, if it's not in your hands, doesn't matter how much effort you put on it, how much energy you will waste on it, right? If I want to move this wall, I can push it, but it will never move. I did not choose this disability. I did not choose losing half of my family. The only thing I get to choose is what I do with it. And this is where I have the choice. So I highly recommend to people to focus on wherever they have a choice. It can go to the small perspective. I did not choose to be this skin color or have glasses or this eye color or this height or this height. I don't have control over it. I control what I do with it. And what matters eventually is what kind of person you are. And I want to look back in my life and say, I did something good. I left a good feeling in this world. I helped. I've been working in the Israel Parasport Center I've been there since I was 9. I started working there when I was 16, 17, when I finished the yeshiva as a swimming coach. Every day that I'm there, I help the next generation of kids with disabilities in Israel. And I don't do it so I feel good. I do it because I want them to have a better life and a better opportunity than what I receive from the society. And that's why I do all those motivational speaking, because I want the society to improve, but also for them. And then this generation will transfer it to the next generation. So we evolve and we rise from one generation to another. And this is what we do on a daily basis in the Israel Parasport Center. We are focusing mostly on civilians, kids who had a car accident, who was born with some kind of disability, any other disability, because they don't get the same chance and the same benefit, I would say, as a veteran. As a terror victim, I get benefits that someone who was born with the same disability, it can be an amputee, but his reason is from birth or a car accident. My life is much better than his, like bureaucracy-wise, or the benefits that I get. I get the best leg in the market. They don't. So I understand there should be a gap because this is by terror or by serving your country. But I think the gap is too big. So we focus on them. We do have some soldiers. We do have some, for example, wheelchair rugby. You can only play in the Israel Parasport, and there is no other place in Israel that you can do that sport. So we have some veterans coming to play that sport. So they come to us. I feel like every person in Israel has some kind of PTSD. If it's exploding balloons and loud noises like myself, all the way to if there's a rocket coming, all of it is some kind of PTSD. So we're a PTSD nation, but we support each other when we do it with a smile.
Asael, it's been such a privilege to sit with you. I just want to thank you for taking the time and being with me.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to What Came After wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us online at whatcameafter.com.
habit.